On this episode of Current Read, South African writer, feminist researcher and book editor at large for Daily Maverick, Joy Watson, joins me in studio to discuss her latest book, Because I Love You, a powerfully nuanced exploration, and I quote from the blurb, of the quiet harm that can live inside love, the kind that doesn't leave bruises, but rewrites the architecture of your mind. Because I Love You is truly the most intriguing book about identity, the female psyche, and erasure in love. It's about those relationships that often leave you questioning your own reality, those kinds of relationships that can make you feel lonelier in a couple than you ever felt on your own. Joy, what a powerful text you've brought to the surface. Welcome, a very warm welcome to Current Read.
Thank you so much for having me, Sam. And it's wonderful to see you after, 5 years?
5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to brag. I kept, there was a slippy of paper in here that I kept as a memento from somewhere that we were together, and I had it signed.
Oh, look at that. That's my illegible handwriting.
Yes, I can read it. It's very dear to my heart. We're going to speak about the other me a little bit because this is all part of your history as a writer. It's all part of your identity as a woman and a contributor to South African literature. And what I don't have is your other book that you collaborated on about women behaving badly. What's it called?
Nasty Women Talk Back. So those are sort of more political essays. Nasty Women Talk Back and Striving for Social Equity. Yeah,
I like that though. And that's okay. You have a very interesting job. You have, like, for me, the coolest job in the world. And I'm
really?
Yeah.
I think that too. Yeah.
No, I really think you have a cool job. I'm seeing more and more how it bleeds into your online life and your creative work. So if you can just give our audience some insights into what exactly it is that you do. What is a feminist researcher? What does that include?
So I worked for about, many years, 17 years, I think, with the South African Parliament as a technical advisor and senior researcher. And then, given the state of our political institutions, I felt that I needed to step outside of that and do that work from the outside. And so I went alone, very bravely, very scarily, and work as a consultant in the development space. So broadly in the area of working on social justice, so developmental issues, whether it's poverty, violence, but I look at that through a feminist lens. So it's the research world predominantly that I've been involved in, but increasingly I'm finding a new identity in shifting from I'm less interested in doing the research than in thinking about the research and the evidence that already exists and how we use that to tell stories that impact change in life. So narrative as a vehicle and a conduit to policy change. And I'm trying to think a lot about, if we dream about and we look at the world as it is now with the global warfare and the rise of fascism and right-wing agendas, we need to dare to dream for a different kind of world for those who are to come and for our children, because it's not centered on human rights. If we carry on in the way that we are, like many people are dying already, we're just going to wipe out humanity if we don't fundamentally change our social norms. And so we have to dare to have a dream towards doing that. But then we need to be working in strategic spaces. So I'm trying to understand what are the strategic sites of influence where you can switch and kind of leverage change. So if you think, for example, one example is the spaces and the institutions where decisions are made in governments, but then globally, the United Nations and so on, like where are decisions being made? How do we take the voices of lived realities of what people are going through and use those stories to shift things?
Look, I'm fascinated by all of this. I've just come back. I don't know if you know the Women Deliver Global Conference.
Were you at Women Deliver?
I was at Women Deliver this year.
Oh, wow, Sam.
So insightful. I mean, we could do a whole other podcast just on
yes, absolutely.
And on what you do. So I'm very cognizant of listeners. and readers, young women who are wondering, did you study research? Did you do feminist studies? What is it that got you into this field of research?
Sure. So I studied politics,
Okay.
and focusing on public policy analysis, and then I wanted to do that through a feminist lens.
And I mean, because there's so much, feminism comes in so many forms, there's so many intersectionalities, and there's so many different waves, and there's so many different types of feminism that contradict one another. How do you navigate that?
So, and I hate lingo, right? But I'm an intersectional feminist, which is taking account of the fact that as feminists, we are not all homogenous. We have different intersections of our identity. So basically it means looking at who you are, where you come from the perspective of class, race, geographic location, sexual orientation. And those things matter because ultimately feminism is about thinking about power and how it operates in the world. And the different intersections of our identity speaks to how much power we are situated in or how little.
I need to do more of a deep dive. I think there needs to be more women looking at the basics of feminism and seeing where we were, how far we've come, and how far we still need to go. So your work is so important.
Thank you.
It really is. I think it's of the most important work and fascinating. Like I say, it's almost like a dream job.
It is a dream job. I love it, and I wake up in the morning and I am energized to work. And I think that's special when you find meaning and passion in what you do.
But the fact that you're consulting and the fact that you're out on your own means you're an empowered woman.
I'd like to think so, and it's been a long journey to that, to finding my sense of power, to challenging power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In 2020, though, I won't say you down tools, but you challenged your creative self.
Yeah.
Starting with your not. It was in 2020. It was in lockdown that you started the other me, right?
Yeah.
Which is a bit of it's a dark, page-turning psychological thriller, but it was fun to write, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And
So-
they're funny bits in it.
So, I mean, the focus is on Because I Love You, but if you can give readers kind of an overview of what happens in The Other Me and what you accomplished with it, because I think it's a fab novel and something that I think I can see where your creative kind of journey is heading, where it started. And it's interesting for me just as an outsider looking into what you're doing and how you're using your work as a researcher and how it's bleeding into your creative work. It's really interesting to me if I had to kind of do a deep dive into that.
So that book was, it started because I absolutely love psychological thrillers. It's my go-to when the world is stressful, when I need escapism. And the frustration with many of them is that they're very badly written. And you find ones that are exceptionally well written, like Liz Nugent. Her whole body of work is just exquisite. So I wanted to experiment with writing something that takes a little bit of effort and time to put together. So I spent, in fact, like in 2020 was the last iteration, but I'd begun writing versions of this many years before, and it was a long kind of journey to getting it to a place where in 2020 I could clean it up. And I was really, I love unreliable narrators. I don't know about you, when there's a sense of empathy and believing in them, but then also they're completely warped in some ways. So I wanted to play with a character who is warped and dark, but also light. And it was just about trying to get into her psyche and how she manipulates those around her. I don't like in books, I don't do well. I feel saturated with what's happening in the world, so I don't like graphic violence. I didn't want that. But I often find sometimes that, the notion of being harmed by the people we love, by the non-physical violence, can be even scarier when it's somebody no one cares about.
Yes. I remember us talking about this.
Yeah.
We had coffee before your launch, and
I think it was wine, to be
it was
technical.
actually, and to interject, we're drinking tea.
We're doing tea now.
Can I tell you the reason why we're drinking tea?
Why?
Because Checkers wouldn't deliver bubbles to me before 10, for shame. You know, I just wanted a mimosa, Checkers. I thought there's so much mention of wine and bubbles in Because I Love You. No, really, these are fab women, and they're always drinking like the best MCCs and champagnes.
So I'm going to apologize up front because I don't want to glamorize alcohol, but I have a deep-seated interest in beautiful
Got a
wine.
refined palate, Joy.
And I'm sorry, like I've come from a place where I didn't have money for wine once upon a time, and now I'm just that person who can buy a nice bottle of wine, and I'm going to do it, and I'm sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. And if Checkers could just... We don't have a problem, but I really did want a nice bottle of Miss Molly.
Like, look at you, early in the morning, love it.
No, I was just like, Joy needs
Loving your
champagne or
vibe.
MCC in studio.
Great.
And that was the intention.
I feel, Sam, next time we'll do that. And
Yes.
I'll even bring it so we don't need to even rely on
We don't need to
Checkers,
rely on Checkers 60-60. I should have had foresight, but I didn't. So my apologies, Troy. But
you're completely forgiven.
I don't know how we... Yes, we did have wine when we sat down.
I love how you rewrote that script.
We did have wine, you're right. We chatted about you taking it. It was Caravan Press that published the other me.
Kirina, the amazing Kirina, yeah.
And saw your vision. And I remember us talking about gratuitous sex and gratuitous violence, and that wasn't what you wanted to explore.
Yes.
And what you're saying about the more insidious, less overt
Absolutely.
instances of violence is exactly what you're dealing with in Because I Love You, which I would imagine was a lot harder to write than the other me.
It was, and also for some odd reason, it is harder. I wouldn't say hard, but yeah, the moments of, because my emotions are far more invested in this.
It cuts close to the bone.
It cuts very close to the bone, so it's harder to talk about too, because it contains the stories of three women, but also my own. And from a time in my life that was really painful. When a relationship ends, it's always painful. And so every conversation that I have reminds me about my ex-husband, the love we shared, the horrific way in which it fell apart. And so, you come to a place where you've dealt with all of that and you've tied a neat little ribbon, or you think you've tied a neat little ribbon around it. And I mean, it's just been a series of conversations about this now. So it's an excavation and a digging up of all of that stuff.
Do you feel like you are reliving trauma?
In some ways, or maybe not, because I've been fortunate enough to get help, and to see a therapist about it. I think that I'm okay, but it certainly is opening the floodgates to my emotions. And while, before talking about this book, I didn't spend a lot of time being stuck in those memories. It is surfacing those memories, and I'm trying to hold that with grace, the bittersweetness.
Yes, which I think is important for readers coming to terms with it. We're going to get stuck into the overtness of the violence that you describe, the type of violence you describe, and the type of hurt that we're dealing with here. But first, I think let's fill our listeners in on our wine session. Join the table. Audience, what is Because I Love You about, first and foremost?
So it started when my marriage ended, and I needed to make sense of what happened to me. The day-to-dayness of struggling to get out of bed and to manage when a marriage ends, and I wanted to know, as part of my healing, I guess, I was looking for other women who were going through the same thing, and who were grappling with juggling both the emotions and the celebration of all that was good in their marriages or relationships, and then also juxtapositioning that with how very painful it was to end the relationship. And I was particularly clear that I didn't want, this is not, while in some of my other, in my research work, I've dealt with violence against women. I didn't want to deal with physical violence. It was about where a woman has a sense that while she fell in love and it was beautiful and celebratory, something emotional happened where there was a scratching on the surface of that love. And you almost don't know, you don't realize it while it's happening, because it's so insidious, to use your word, that you go, okay, this little small scratching's happening, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I'm just making a big deal out of nothing. And then there are more scratchings, and accumulatively over time, you have to then sit back and go, am I putting in more into this relationship than what I'm getting out? And, it's odd because when my marriage ended, I'm a book person, as are you. So when I'm going through something, I go to look for books to help me deal with it. So I love fiction, but I want to read about Palestine, global warfare. I want to make sense of things. And there weren't books.
On what you were going through.
Yeah, that easily dealt with navigating the end of a relationship. And I thought that this is a tremendous shortcoming in the market, because so many of us are going through this. And it's not linear, right? You can meet somebody and be happy, and then you have another breakup. And where the reference literature that say, I see you, I hear you, I've walked this path too.
So I'm intrigued by the genre, and this is what you're touching on. This could have been fiction. Joy, could easily have been fiction.
Yeah.
Alka Joshi just twofold. Alka Joshi just walked out the studio.
Yeah.
The author.
And can we just comment on the fabulousness of her, everything about her literary mind, but then, as I said, I just want to steal her clothes and her jewelry.
She looks like she smells good. You know?
I mean, like,
she's just so opulent.
One day I'm
going to
grow up and I'm going to look like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to cheers our invisible bubbles to that.
Exactly.
So, Alka Joshi, author of The Henna Artist and 6 Days in Bombay, the Jaipur trilogy, just walked out of here. We had a fat chat. She said two things that, to you actually, she was saying everything happens on purpose.
Yes.
There's nothing.
Yes.
Which is so interesting in the way that we're looking at love in your book. And then also we spoke at length about using fiction as a vehicle for truth-telling.
Yeah.
And fiction really does have that in it. But so then memoir also is about memory, and it's about what happened to you and you telling your truth.
Yeah.
But you've gone against this. You opted to tell 3 stories, albeit anonymously, but 3 real women stories, and then your own interspersed. But the focus is on these 3 stories. So speak to me about, because that, I'm assuming it was a long journey to that decision, through that decision-making process, to land at this really unique way of doing nonfiction, because it is also not, you didn't write about love and the erasure of identity in love.
Yeah.
You didn't write a straightforward fiction, a self-help book. It wasn't
exactly.
that. It's not a self-help book.
And can I tell you why?
Yes, I want to know everything.
I hate self-help books. and that's exactly what I was like, this is meant to be a version of that. That's not that. And in fact, Alka and I were chatting on Sunday about, I don't know if you recall, in The Perfumist of Paris, she said to me something about that. Readers loved that book, and the reason for it is that in the marriage has pressure points there. You desperately invested and you wanted to work out, but something has been tainted.
Yes,
and so it's this kind of pulsing understory of a marriage that is the degradation and the potential falling apart of this marriage. And so that really sat with me because, that's fiction, but readers loved that book for that thing. And they came to her to say, this is what I appreciated about the book.
It's a nuanced view of marriage. A very nuanced view of marriage.
So I knew that, one, I did not want to write a book where, one, I'm bleeding on the page and going, oh my God, my marriage ended, sob, sob, sob. And it's just, like, that wasn't going to work as a literary technique. And then, I sometimes still will go out and buy myself a book, and I don't know that I've ever found one that I've read through to the end.
Same. I find it repetitive. You can read the first 3 chapters and you're like, okay, I got the gist. I'm done.
It's boring as
you can
boring.
Go for it.
Boring.
Go for it.
Boring as fuck. And also just, there's almost, some of them do this thing where you're reading the book, but you feel that somebody's on a pulpit preaching to you.
Yes.
And I was very intentionally not wanting to be preachy. And so I thought about how might we reflect on a relationship that is falling apart, where it feels like a story that no one's preaching to you. And if you recall how you feel when you read fiction that you're enjoying, you're curling up, you have your chocolate, your stuff, like it pulls you in, it lures you. So I wanted to use that as a technique. It's pulling you in. I'm telling you a story, and the beginning of that story is wonderful. It's about finding this person who sees you, and it's beautiful, and then all the excitement around the love and the falling in love and the romance, and then it starts going wrong. And I thought, and just to say that I experimented, I started and restarted several times because it wasn't working. I landed at that eventually, and I think that was kind of a couple of goes in. I mean, I hadn't written the whole thing, but I'd tried to start. And then I knew that this is it. And the thing about that format is that there is no saying to somebody, because I'm very conscious that women, and this book is written for anybody, but, I'm particularly interested in women going through a relationship that is falling apart. You don't want, when you go to your friends and you say, my marriage is falling apart, you don't necessarily want them to tell you what to do. You want to be heard.
Yes.
And so that's what I was wanting to do with those stories. If this is resonating with you, if you're going through something similar, this book is not telling you stay or leave. It is just a safe place that is meant to be a portal into deep thought work for what you are going through.
It's an I see you.
It's an I see you. And you know what is fascinating for me? I had somebody come to tell me that they read the book in one sitting, and what stayed, and this is, so the people who are reading it who are finding it really useful to navigate their way to leaving a relationship, or people who have left and now have language for what they went through. But this person who came to me blew my mind, because she said to me, I read this in one sitting and it was everything that's happening to me. She's happily married, but she's in a work situation. She's been professionally gaslit. And she felt that with these stories about love spoke to a gaslighting.
Yes.
That gave her tools for understanding gaslighting. And in my wildest dreams, that's not what I set out to do. So it was just really special to hear that.
It was a unique read, and it was something that I was going to come to later. But that, I think, what you've achieved is you're giving women language. Not just women, to be fair. But in this, and you do speak about it and you highlight it in the very beginning, that you're very much aware that you're dealing with heteronormative relationships. Yes. And you don't want to exclude other types of relationships.
Absolutely.
And other types of identities. However, this is your experience, and so this is the framework through which you're operating.
And interestingly, Sam, I've had people who have read the book who are in gay, in queer relationships, and I said, oh my God, my marriage ended. This is exactly what happened to me. So there's been that, and it's just so interesting to hear the feedback from people that initially, while I spoke from my experience, was not necessary. It doesn't center those kinds of relationships, but there's a resonance with it.
My attention is not off you, but you're making me think when you talk about queer relationships. Carmen Maria Machado's The Dream House. Have you read it?
No.
So, I mean, there are queer writers doing the work of exploring. There, it was more overt, coercive control and sometimes violence, overt violence. But there definitely is, I mean, we don't have to, as heteronormative women, always be writing, trying to be inclusive, just acknowledge what you're excluding sometimes.
Yes.
It does. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm excluding, so I'm going to like have this type of character and
absolutely.
You know, the women are childless in your book. You're dealing with. I'm not going as a mother going like you excluded mothers from the text. Joy.
So there is one woman who has a child, and that story kind of ends with her feeling that she should leave, but then recontemplating for the sake of the child. And I deliberately don't tell you how she decides, what she decides.
Yes, I wanted to lean into that. Now we're going, okay, hang on. Let me get my act together. The structure of the book, firstly, I wanted to touch on. We're going to get to that final story and the way that you don't tie everything in a neat bow. Yeah. Okay. So firstly, the structure, because we touched on the genre and then you touched on the format. The structure of the book is, just to prep the listeners, is you do kind of flag, you open it up. Yes. And say, okay, this is who you are. You touch on your story, but you don't do a deep dive. No. The focus is on those three women. Yeah. But kind of bookending each of the stories is your own narrative, right? I find it really to be experimental. Do you think that it was taken up as such, or do you think that readers have enjoyed it as you intended as a novel? Because I have enjoyed it as something that I can curl up with a glass of wine, my whiskey.
So I'm actually getting that a lot. That because it's shelved obviously as nonfiction because it's nonfiction, but people are blown away because it's not what you expect when you pick up a nonfiction book. So I'm getting that a lot, and I think that because of that, there's a resonance. And just to say, it's an odd thing because it starts with me, and after each woman's story is my voice, reflecting on love, on erotica, on all sorts of things.
On rituals.
Mm-hmm. But I deliberately not put too much of my husband's story. You get to know that it ended, that it made me sad. And I did that deliberately. So with each of the women, they were part of they okayed everything that went in, and we co-created what was said and what wasn't said.
Do they know each other?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
And then with my ex-husband, I was very conscious that there's so much more I could say. There's so much more that I could say. But I was conscious that I would not do that to him. And that it's an act of loyalty that he doesn't deserve, that I don't say those things. And I was kind of taken aback. I was at the French Literature Festival this weekend where we were talking about the book. And, I sort of have a sense of a script of what I'm prepared to say and what I'm not prepared to say. And something happened in that space where it went very deep and very emotional. And the audience so much related to the material that they wanted to know. They were asking questions where I wasn't prepared to go. So one of it was, but you say that the relationship was in trouble. Why was it? I'm not going to share that because one, I want to protect him. Two, there are different versions of. There's his version, there's my version in what unfolded there. And because it ended in the way it did, where he didn't have words, he ended it without words, I have no idea in what way I was problematic. I can surmise. but he's never told me. And so I'm aware that there's potentially versions of me that wasn't cool. But I don't know what it is other than my guess.
You don't have that clarity or closure.
Exactly. And so it didn't feel right. It didn't feel ethical to put more than what I did in the book.
I think beyond ethics, Joy, you came into this as a creative project, and you came into it not to serve yourself and to scratch an itch of revenge. You spoke about CrossFit earlier. You can just join a CrossFit club and get your revenge body.
Yeah.
It's a joke. I'm playing.
I'm going to get my revenge body.
Listen, girl, you are killer. I was telling Alka, like, this is the kind of fashionista of the Joburg or the South African literary world. Sorry, I'd hate to peg you as a Joburger. You're a Capetonian.
But listen, I walked in here and then I see Alka and then I see you and I'm like, oh my God, I packed the whole wrong wardrobe here. Like the standards are like up here.
We're all fabulous. Let's just admit it. So no, you don't need to get your revenge body, but I do, to digress. I think you don't understand the loyalty you have towards your husband. And I'm not trying to therapize you. I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
As a reader, the point of the novel, I call it a novel. You see, I call it a novel. The point of the book is not to go on a witch hunt for your husband.
Absolutely not.
It's not. And even the men in the book.
Yeah.
Even the men in the book. There's a lot that we can say and we can go on this. And I think I always say this to my husband when we're hashing out kind of feminist thoughts. And I say there's a lot about feminism and feminists or so-called feminists that undermine the basic tenets of feminism by going balls to the wall against men.
Yeah.
Go by man bashing.
Yeah.
And you would not have been serving your audience had you done that. So perhaps not a protection of your husband, but honoring the reader and who you were trying to target.
And Sam, it's an odd thing. I did not go into this expecting anything from him. That wasn't the point. There was a time where I needed words from him, possibly an apology. I had moved beyond that. And especially, I think that's the gift of the book, that in working with these women, we were creating magic. I was sharing my story, they shared theirs, and we were making meaning of what happened to us. And they gave me what he had not given me. They gave me closure. I mean, mostly I gave it to myself, but they were an important conduit to that.
It was a processing that was happening.
Absolutely.
Very important processing.
I didn't need anything from him, but he has since reached out. And I don't want to kind of go into what he said, but I can see he's grappling. Like there's a grappling that's happening, and I'm not interested in it. It's too late, but I can see that there's a thing happening. And he has also said to me, I didn't need this, but it matters. He has said to me, I'll spend the rest of my life regretting what I did to you. And I want to hold the grace in that.
That's beautiful. That's the grace, holding the grace. I think the whole book is about that. It's about holding the grace in each situation. I want to touch on the women that you interviewed, because it wasn't just the three. Right?
No, there were more. Yeah, there were more.
So what was your process in only choosing the three stories?
So I think
choosing those three in particular.
I think that when after my marriage ended, I was like, bring on all the women who are going through relationship endings. I just want to talk to you.
We're going on a witch hunt.
We're
gonna find a big one.
So I actually had 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we didn't end up with a book with 12. Like the process to get the book to where it was required an investment of time. And in the end, it was these three who sat through a journey that took time and laughter and tears And so I had enough material to write something. The others, it doesn't mean that they didn't make it, like it worked out that they didn't have the time and to be able to make that commitment, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't meaningful for them. And like all the stories sit with me and they touch me and I hold them. But in the end, what works out well about this is what you see in the book is a fraction of the stories that were told to me, but they had to be distilled. Because I'm talking, and then there are 3 people, and you have to distill the breakup of all these relationships into a tiny little nugget. So the time had to move faster in the stories, but there's so much more.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. There's so much material. And then I edited out the stuff that seemed fantastical. Like, so, you know, when real
even
life,
though you're dealing with real life.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, like when stuff happened, it's like, that is so crazy. It's impossible. I was like, I didn't want readers to go, no, wow, this can't have happened. Like, and so, yeah, I left out the more dramatic, fantastical stuff.
So you had Karen Shimka on your side as editor.
Yeah. Oh my God, what a legend Karen is.
She's South Africa's best kept secret.
She is. She totally is. And so what she brings is not just the editing, but just who she is in her sense of self and her politics and how she approaches the text.
Yes.
It is not, I am writing of your script. It's a deeply thoughtful. She immerses herself in it and she poses questions. What's happening here? Might this work better? And I really respect it. So it's almost as if though she's cognizant of power and the power she holds. So she just brought so much magic. You know, she elevated bits of the script and in a way that is just special. I've had the fortune of working with 2 editors like that. It's Karina for The Other Me and Karen. So I know stories of how editors can be very difficult beings, but that's not my experience.
That's amazing. I do think that Karen, I've worked with her, and I do think that she brings the sensitivity that the subject needed.
Yeah.
But also the incisiveness. It needs a sharp, because it is so nuanced and because it is so vague, because there's no specific language you're building. You're making work of building a language for people around what this type of violence is. I'm looking for my notes on here. Slow violence. You've referenced slow violence. Now, slow violence originated from Rob Nixon's theory, and theory had originated in terms of environmental devastation and how structural violence, bleeds into your work, right?
Yes.
That's the work that you do. How structural violence slowly impacts the marginalized and disadvantaged. But so interesting when you look at that through the lens of love and relationships.
Yeah. So, you know, and I'm really grateful to Annie Olivier because initially this was going to be a book about slow violence, which is not physical violence. And she said to me, no, like it's not going to work.
So Annie Olivier is?
So she's moved from Jonathan Ball to NB. She is a publisher of note. I think her title is something super fancy, like... I don't know, managing director, whatever, but so she's a big deal.
The South African literati will know who Annie Olivier is, but she's a big deal.
And she's just got so much insight. And she said to me, it's not going to work from the point of view of going in that this is slow violence. What you need to do, because this is about harm in relationships, about feeling unseen and unheard. And she said, we need to take the reader along, because if you're going to start the book with this is slow violence, many women are going to go, I don't want to read that.
It's a show, you needed to show, not tell.
Exactly. It's exactly that. And her point was rather, as people are feeling safe, you might then slowly say, but when somebody's hurting you in these deep and fundamental ways, that there's an erosion of your sense of self, might that be a form of slow violence? And not necessarily in every instance. But certainly if somebody is gaslighting you, if they're lying to you, they've never physically harmed you, that is a form of slow violence.
Even the violence in this book, though, I'm finding that the gaslighting
Yeah.
is not, it's something that the perpetrator can slip out of.
Yeah.
It's that insidious, to use that word
Absolutely.
again. It's that slow that it's like, no, I didn't mean that. And I can explain my way out of this. And the person can easily slip out of that and be like, it was just this one time and this is because I was so stressed in this moment.
Absolutely.
And not as, when you hear stories of coercive control, you know, and coercive control has now been recognized as a form of gender-based violence.
Yes.
I'm sure you of all people would know this. You're not even dealing with overt coercive control. You know, where people's money's taken charge of, their lives, their okay, in some instances in the book, friends and family are isolated from the individual.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it's messy, and to recognize it when it happens in real life. That's what the book achieves. And I think that's what using nonfiction, using real people's stories has achieved, and not fictionalizing it, and not using the crazy sounding stories that could have been fiction, even though it was real. I think that achieved this real sense of the nuance, and finding you're able to watch a Hollywood movie and be like, oh, that's an overt romance. Oh, that was overtly abusive. The Colleen Hoover, you know, books of the world / movies that show these overt, you know, instances of violence. But what you've accomplished is, I can see myself in this messiness and this confusion.
And you know, some of it, and this is interesting because since the book, like, women have come out to tell me stories of what's happening to them. And it's so common. It makes me so sad. So, for example, with one particular woman who's in a relationship, and it's good. She believes in it, but it's these occasional things of, for example, I'm working late. And of course, people work late. We accept this. But something about the situatedness and the context of that kind of has you going, I'm feeling a little uneasy.
There's a neck.
But yes, there's a little neck. But it is easy to go. And then over time, this is happening. Oh, drinks with the boys, and I'm home super late. This happened on the way, terrible thing. And when there's a pattern on this, that intuitively you picking up on something. But in the face of that person's rationalizing, but how can you? You're not supporting my work. The drinks with the boys is because
it's networking.
It's networking. Why are you doing this? Do you want me to succeed or not? And I love you, and of course, and you are everything. And what can I do to make this up? It's easy to have that slippage between something's not right, but okay, no, I was crazy. I'm being unfair. And when you are stuck in that moment, it is the most destabilizing, debilitating thing, because you don't have necessarily the facts to know that something's wrong. All you know is your
body
gut.
compass.
Your body compass. What a beautiful word. And I think that, by the time that it gets to where it's obvious, like this has now happened too many times, it's so obvious, the crayon writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
What do? We start feeling stupid. Like, why did I not see this before? Or when the woman, you straight out, and in one instance, like somebody actually followed her partner, watched him pull out at her house, watched the car being parked there for hours, had a breakdown in the car. After that, even then, this is so traumatic. Sometimes, like, it is so awful that you just go, it's over. But sometimes we're desperately looking for somebody to say, but you know what? I'm so sorry. This was a once-off mistake. I'll do anything. And sometimes, look,
Or there's
Sometimes
an
they mean it.
explanation.
There's an explanation. Sometimes they mean it. Sometimes you can live happily ever after and sail off into the sunset. But many times it's not. It's just the hors d'oeuvre into the main course and the ongoing degradation of this relationship and the erosion of your sense of self. And by the time it finally ends, you're sitting with the guilt and the feeling of being stupid. And it's also about, and the book is about, like, how do we not do that? This is hard enough.
So this is an identity loss issue.
Yeah. And then don't go and say, I'm to blame. It's not going to help you.
It's death by 1,000 cuts.
I love that. It's absolutely death by 1,000 cuts.
I had to, for shame, I'm a Swiftie, you know? Yeah. And Taylor Swift wrote the song Death by 1,000 Cuts. And that song, in reading your book, has been replaying in my mind. Yeah. It's like the soundtrack to this.
It absolutely. Thank you for that.
Death by 1,000 Cuts. However, it is a form of Chinese torture / yeah. I think they literally killed people that way by death by 1,000 cuts. And that's exactly what this is. One cut, cool, yeah. that feels ick, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, but it's what you keep saying. Your words coming back at me are that it happens over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to slip out of that.
And something, you know, like while the book is big or not judging and not telling you what to do, what I've become obsessed about is, what about the people who were meant to have left a long time ago? Because it's never going to get better. What does that mean for you? It is obviously going to impact your health and well-being, your psychological and mental health. And ultimately, it affects your longevity of life. It affects the quality of your life, how you are able to experience the world. And I'm just taken with the fact that when we are consistently trying to find the reasons to stay in something that is beyond us its sell-by date, what do we lose? And time, the time that's lost in this. Life is so short and it's so precious. And if you are immersed in something that is taking away from your time, your life, your well-being, your experience of being alive, then that is really tragic. And only you, no one can tell you what to do. Only you can decide if that's worth it or not, if that's what you want.
It's making me think of this reel of this, nobody's coming to save you, and it's this little girl on stage.
Yeah.
And she's crying, and she's so upset on the stage. Like, she's center stage at a ballet concert, and the which I think also bleeds a lot into your life and your book. She runs off stage, and her sister's there to hold her.
And this is the thing.
This is the thing.
This is the most beautiful thing. Also, is that when my marriage ended, it was a dark time, and because of the way in which he ended it, which was to just take off and not have a conversation and to ghost me, it was particularly cruel and difficult. And when you're in the dark, it's hard to find the sunshine, right? But in retrospect, I look at the women who surrounded me, the friends, the family, the people who showed up for me. I look at when I first went on a date after that, and, you know, like now I am particularly vulnerable because I've had a marriage end in the worst way possible. I don't trust men. And at the same time, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. You get your hair done, you put some makeup on, you go out on
slap on that lipstick, girl.
You just go, and then you're trying to be charming. And he was, he was worth being charming for, because I'm still with him. But I came home that night and just had a meltdown because I was like, I can't do this. I don't believe in love, and I'm terrified after what's happened to me. And in fact, I said to him, like, I just can't. And might we just carry on being friends? And the minute that pressure was taken off, and there was no expectation of anything, was when it became possible to feel safe again. And from that, it opened the doorways into finding love. But I'm still, is amazing, but I'm still deeply dubious, because when somebody harms you in the way that my ex harmed me, you got to put some locks around your heart, and that's sad.
It's sad, and it's all of the songs we listen to, all of the books that we read, the romances that make us believe in love.
Yeah.
To doubt that is possibly it's a grief.
Absolutely.
It's a grief, and it's a learning. It's more than a learning curve, but I think it's a deep grief when you start to lose faith in people and glimmers like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you mentioned kind of in your book-ended parts of the book. You know, you speak about when you speak about the rituals. I don't want to give too much away. When you speak about the rituals, when you speak about the eroticism.
Yeah.
And there are just moments of levity in between where I would say that they're like glimmers. Do you know the concept of glimmers?
Yes. Is it Bridget McNulty's yes.
You know, and I think that's what we hold on to. But it's such a hard reckoning with life, I think.
Absolutely. And you know, Sam, I didn't think when I was going through the hurt of the demise of the relationship, you don't think about the time that it's going to get better. It's impossible to see that. And I think at the journey I've come through and how difficult it was to put terms, like this left an indelible mark on my psyche. It deeply, deeply harmed me in the way that it happened. But then, for example, like I look at the Franschhoek Literary Festival, when my partner and I arrived on the Thursday night, we have a thing now. When we get there, we have to dance, and so we have our own party for two. Mm-hmm. And the fun and the screaming with laughter and the dancing is not cool.
Oh, okay.
It's mad. And it's like,
a dance party.
It's a dance party for two. Party. And it's like, I did not envisage a couple of years ago that this would be me living my best life, having the best time. And long may it last.
Long may it last, and long may the look, two things can be true at the same time, right? You can be disappointed by someone that you've loved, but love can still exist.
Exactly, and I think that's what I want readers to walk away with, that when you're holding on to something that shouldn't be held on to because it's just costing you far too much than what it's worth, we are unable to dare to dream that there might be something better out there. And even if that something is being alone, but it is possible. I mean, in the time after my marriage ended, I had a lot of time. I had community, and so I'm not alone, but I mean alone in not having a significant other. And it was hard because of the social stigma attached to all of those things.
Especially for women.
Especially for women, showing up at social events and they put you at the head of the table because you're the only single person. But at the same time, there was something tremendously powerful in rediscovering who I was in that aloneness. And it was magical. And then, you know, the thing to go is, I'm in this solitude. How do I make it a thing of beauty? What is that? And it's different for everyone. What does that look like for me?
You're finding the poetry in your own life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And for me, it was obviously books, but it was also, I want to discover new things. I want to learn new things. I want to go to dance classes. I want to put myself out there. And then it's frightening and scary, but also joyous and amazing. I want, apart from the community I have, I want to step into new communities. What does that look like? And then you become brave and bold. Sometimes some folks don't, but because it takes tremendous courage. You know, I mean, with somebody who talked to me recently about a relationship for him, and she cannot let go. She just cannot. And she knows that it is so bad that he is cheating. She's caught him out. He has promised to do better. She suspects he started again. This has been going on for 10 years, but she cannot find the courage. She's walked away every time she comes back. And the thing is, when you're finding your fun things, they could be, I don't know, burlesque classes, they could be surfing, taking up surfing class, like whatever that thing is, walks in nature. It is about pushing the boundaries of what you knew and rediscovering the joy in life. And so I'm big on joy and erotica and finding that for yourself. And I mean, I'm looking at the kind of modern dating world I'm seeing on social media, how innovative it's become. It's no longer, the thing is no longer even about these dating apps. I mean, there's the thing called Our Local, and it's mainly younger people in that instance. But in fact, Miriam from Jonathan Paul started this. She's a legend.
She is a legend.
She started this thing where people hang out in a really cool place to read books. And if you look at the socials on this, it's like packed.
Yes.
Men, women, they are gathering there.
But you're sitting in silence, in companionable silence.
And potentially you could even find something, because some of them look pretty. Like, like that, like it's a place. Mm-hmm. But then also there are these intentionally curated kind of single nights, and like it can be whatever you want. They're the kind of upper end ones, but then there are ones where you just go and get a drink on a Thursday night in, I don't know how it is in Joburg, but on Thursday night in Cape Town, everywhere there's single nights, and you go and you have fun. And there are ones where you play games, there are ones where you play sport, there are ones where you go for a walk on the promenade, you hike. So
there's potential everywhere you look, but just be open to the glimmers, right?
Absolutely. And in those things, you might not find a significant other, but you might find friends or whatever. There are other things.
So, Joy, I do want to, oh, man, our time. But there's two key things that I want to touch on. Firstly, the three women that you choose in your book, they have different but the same stories.
Yeah.
And stuff, I mean, they all weave together, but they're very different women with very different occupations in life, and they are three different people. Interestingly, though, for me, they're not, you spoke about you don't like a reliable narrator, or you love an unreliable narrator, should I say.
Yes.
And these women aren't blameless in their stories.
Absolutely.
They're not angels. They aren't necessarily victims, which I love. There's no just like, oh, poor me, which I know you don't like either. You don't like
poor me.
You don't like to be pitied.
No.
Or who does, right?
Yeah.
Who wants to be really a victim?
The idea is that we have agency.
Absolutely. And the endings are not neat, which I did say I would get back to.
Yeah.
I love that. If any reader's looking for a neat little, I mean, you have your formulaic romances. This is not it.
Yeah.
This is not it. This is about erasure. This is about identity. This is not about breakups and finding love again after being broken. Yeah. This is, if anything, it's about finding yourself again after being broken. But the endings are messy because it's life. And I wonder if it is, perhaps you used it as a tool towards facilitating an inward look on the part of the reader.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you mind if I just have the book? Yes. So when you talk about that these three women being one, the cover.
I love this cover, by the way.
She's just a genius, Gretchen van der Bijl. It's three women, but they become one.
You can show the camera there. Yeah.
So they become one. And that's because they have their three separate stories. But what unifies them is this experience of a relationship ending. And as you say, it is messy. I've had readers, including my daughter, tell me that, and so it's clear like this happened at the end. And it's like, if you're thinking that, then you've not read carefully enough. It doesn't tell you what they choose, and it's intentional.
Yes.
Because I don't want to tell, if you're going through a similar thing, I don't want to tell you what to choose. So in each of those stories, I don't tell you, have they stayed or have they left? And like one of the things, my daughter read this and she said to me, wow, there was a lot of sex in that story. And sex is part of life. And
wait, which one?
Mira has a lot of sex. There's a load shedding story where Cape Town goes into darkness.
There's a balcony.
She's in the bath naked at the guy. So that story's got a lot of
It's sensual. It is a very sensual story.
It's a sensual, kind of erotic, like there's this chemistry between her and that character.
But I think can we say that it's safe for girls of like 12, 13 to read it? It's not overtly... it's mature content in terms of like what you're grappling with on a psychological level.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like, we're not looking at smut, overt sexual
absolutely.
penetration.
It's not.
You're very tasteful.
I mean, there's penetration, but I don't go,
no, you're very tasteful.
he's hard cock like heater on the boobs. Like, it's not that.
Yeah. No, you're very, your sex scenes are very tasteful. That's why I'm surprised. I'm like, which one?
It's because I have tasteful and also not tasteful sex, but I'm not going to put the not tasteful sex, and that's for the next book.
Okay, gotcha.
So, I mean, there was a question that you asked about the women not being entirely innocent as well.
Blameless,
That is very intentional, because that would be very one-dimensional and flatlining a character, and particularly for Mira. She's in a relationship with somebody who is taken. They are both engaged in an illicit affair. He is doing a thing where he's keeping her hanging.
Aiden's always dangling a carrot.
He's dangling
that man.
But at the same time, she has signed up for this. She's complicit in harming another woman.
And her spouse, I suppose.
And her spouse.
At the time, yeah.
So there's a moral dilemma there, and what it's told through her lens, and, you know, the hurt that he ultimately causes her. Some of that she brought on herself. A lot of that she brought on herself, let's put it that way. And the thing is, I can say this because we've talked about this, and
Well, you even said, you know, you're looking for closure, you're looking for language, you were looking for your ex-husband to have spoken.
Yeah.
You know, and now you realize he's grappling, he doesn't have the words. But you also said that even if, you know, he speaks and says he has a list of all the things you did wrong, Joy.
Yeah.
You want to know, and you're open to that.
So back then I felt robbed when I didn't get that, because we all want to know. I mean, I want to know. I want to know how to be
see how I did wrong, but you're admitting that there are parts of you that could have done that you're not.
And I think, you know, like largely around the fact that he was grappling with depression, he was going through a really difficult time. And in that, I became like the person responsible for everything. Earning being the breadwinner, looking after him. Like
there's a lot of Mira in there though as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's very similar. So Mira,
Sam,
like
right?
Mira and my story are very, very similar. And at the time, I was falling apart. My daughter was going through a difficult time. My dad passed away. And so I'm dealing with somebody who is not functioning as an adult. And I'm trying to navigate grief and everything. And
holding it all as a
holding
woman.
it all, and having to give to those who are dependent on me, which was my daughter, my dad's partner, him. And actually I was falling apart and I didn't know it. And I think in retrospect, I must have been not easy. I know it was a difficult time for me. I would love to have known what that looked like for him, how it felt like for him, what it felt like. I will never know. And I don't need it now anymore, because there was a time and a place for that, and we've passed that.
Well, as I've said, Joy, and we do need to wrap up, but I want to list a few things, and this is something that you're deeply familiar with as well. We've spoken a lot about overt GBV. South Africa was at one point the #1 rape capital of the world. Recent stats show 11,000 rapes per quarter, 125 daily, a worrying amount of our police stations without rape kits. Women for Change founder Sabrina Walter recently made it to Time's 100 list of the world's most influential people for her Purple Circle campaign. In terms of femicide, 11 to 15 women are murdered daily, most at the hands of an intimate partner. And we can juggle the statistics and we can talk about the theories, but the work that you're doing with this book sets a foundation for the standards that we set as women, I feel.
Absolutely. And like, maybe if I can end with this, that I think, we are conditioned to seeing the gender-based violence in its extreme form. So where there's blood and there's death and there's actual physical harm. And the pattern that I want to sketch is this, that when we are in a relationship and they're tiny harms and they're the tiny emotional harms, what we are doing is we're creating a gendered social order where the more brutal manifestations of harm become possible.
Yes.
So we have got to start with those small harms in relationships and do better, because in doing that, we are laying a different trajectory for ending gender-based violence.
You are doing such important work. Do I dare ask what's next on the horizon for you? You're promoting your book now. You're juggling a lot. You're a woman who does so much. Is there other projects that you have in mind that you want to pursue?
There definitely is. I'm toying with something that I think is going to be super exciting. And all I'll tell you is the name that I have kind of in my head right now is wanting.
Ah.
Different forms of wanting.
Okay. Does it play with the eroticism that you like to?
Everything, like eroticism, sex, money.
Yeah.
Power.
I'm with you.
What happens when we want?
I love this. I love this exploration. I love that you're pulling at this thread.
And I'm going to have to go into like proper research. So I have to go out and want.
Good. Good. Troy Watson. Readers, listeners, viewers, The Other Me is Joy's first book. Nasty Women Talk Back I need to get a hold of.
I'll bring you one next time. You have to take me for Bubbles.
Bubbles on the horizon. And of course, Because I Love You, which you can gobble up in one sitting with some chocolates, with a glass of wine. And you will cry and you will laugh and you will feel the glimmers, but you'll also feel seen. And you'll be reminded of times in your life where you felt that lonely, and perhaps also will be the support for other women experiencing it.
Thank you, Sam, for the very careful and deep reading of the book. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful talking to you.
It's been so wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us on Current Read.